Hey superstars, it's your pal Danny with another episode of Spot the Propaganda. Today's clip and propaganda analysis comes from a podcast between Aubrey Marcus and Charles Eisenstein. And this is not new. I want to be super clear. It's just been on my to-do list for a long time because I've been waiting for the time and bandwidth to do a whole puppet video. And I'm realizing it's going to be a lot easier if it's just me delivering the propaganda analysis. So time isn't linear, and I'm sure on some dimension, this happened now. This is happening now. And it doesn't even matter because it's super relevant. And there are a lot of different propaganda techniques in this that I want to draw our attention to in this really short video clip. Now, I want to say before I play it that my analysis of this video is not indicative of any personal feelings that I have towards Charles Eisenstein or Aubrey Marcus. I've actually met neither of them. I've interviewed Charles Eisenstein on my show a couple times, and he's been super lovely, very intelligent, very thoughtful. You know, I've been following Charles's work for quite a long time. So whether this propaganda dissemination is happening accidentally or by design, I'm not going to weigh in on that because I don't know. All I'm doing is using this as an example of how propaganda is being disseminated upon the populace, and how these techniques are used as a means of control. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. As I said, it's really short, but these are super relevant because these are used so often. So we're going to dissect them. All right. So.
And then it extends too far in some cases. Like, I mean, maybe there wasn't a moon landing, but I've talked to some astronauts and they seem like honest. And they're like, yeah, for sure. We were there, Yeah.
Okay. So we have Aubrey Marcus, who is standing in as a trusted leader, right? And a trusted leader is a very specific propaganda term that indicates people who are thrust into the public consciousness, into the discourse, and bestowed an air of authority or leadership, and therefore we are supposed to believe whatever comes out of their mouths. So many propaganda techniques being used in this one. But notice how Aubrey's debunking, like that we're supposed to buy into this. So, there's what we know about NASA and what NASA really is and why NASA was started and all of those things. And then we have Aubrey Marcus debunking any conspiracies around the moon landing not happening. And I want to be clear, I don't know, I wasn't there, but just because I see something on television doesn't mean that I believe what I'm seeing. I once saw a zombie dragon being pulled out of a frozen lake on television. I don't think that actually happened. But Aubrey's debunking is, I've met a couple astronauts. They seemed honest, and I asked them. So therefore the moon landing happened. So let me ask you, if you were involved in like an intensely classified government-backed fraud that was perpetrated upon the public, and you kept that secret for decades, and then you meet a podcaster / neurohacker in a casual social setting, and he asks you, did the moon landing really happen? You're going to what? Blow the whole cover for some like random social exchange? I don't really think so. So I don't know if Aubrey's buying his story or if he just thinks that we're going to buy it. But as far as like debunking goes, this instance is a little bit ridiculous. So another role that Aubrey's playing that I just want to get clear before we get into the next clip, and today's really short, so we're just getting a morsel today, is he's considered what we call beautiful people in propaganda terminology. And I'm not sure if you guys can see. Oh, you can. So I'm pulling these terms from my book, Pop Propaganda, an Illustrated Guide, which features 37 tools, tricks, and techniques that the social engineers use to attempt to manipulate us. So the first one that I mentioned, the trusted leader, is in here. And this would be our trusted leader section, where we're supposed to put aside our own critical thinking skills and doubt and whatnot for whatever words or stories are coming out of the mouth holes of these trusted leaders. So Aubrey's playing another role here, and that is, see, it has a table of contents even. It's so well organized. So he's doubling as what we call beautiful people, right? In the propaganda biz. So beautiful people is humans. We're shallow species. I don't know if we were born like that or we were just indoctrinated to be that, but when people are super beautiful, it lends them more legitimacy. Aubrey's a really good looking guy. So it lends legitimacy when, like, say, a not super attractive politician has a beautiful woman on his arm, as in the case of like Donald and Melania. Beautiful people are used as props to lend legitimacy to people and ideas that aren't so on the level. And Aubrey himself, he's operating in the world as both a beautiful person and a trusted leader. Now, to be clear, these are propaganda terms. I don't consider him a trusted leader at all, and whether or not we believe he's beautiful is a matter of personal taste. But as I said, these are established propaganda techniques that we are applying to these clips today. Okay, jumping into the next clip.
And then you could extend it even further to absurdity, which is the flat earth situation. Like,
yeah, I know some very intelligent people who believe it.
I want to play this last part again so you could just see what Charles does with his feet, because it strikes me as a little odd. Okay.
Sure, we were there, you know?
Yeah.
And then you could extend it even further to absurdity, which is the flat earth situation. Like,
yeah, I know some very intelligent people who believe it.
What is that? I feel like that's a tell. I don't know. Again, I wasn't there. I'm just guessing. But so here we have two more. We actually have three more propaganda techniques being used here. So one is the egregious association. And the egregious association, I'm actually the one who coined that phrase, is when we create these erroneous associations or links between groups of people to discredit them, as is the case where you'll notice the script. So here's egregious associations in your new favorite book for teens and grown-ups alike. Egregious associations. So egregious associations are like flat earth, right? So what we see in this clip is we're coming on the tail end of Aubrey and Charles acknowledging the validity of a few quote unquote conspiracies, right? Narratives that the mainstream tries to marginalize as conspiracies. But the egregious association is baked in to consistently delegitimize conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists by always like handcuffing them to flat earth. And you will, once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And you'll notice in any conversation in the alt media, in these podcasts or videos that, you know, do legitimize some quote unquote conspiracies, they will also immediately make fun of flat earthers to like draw that line, right? And even flat earthers, like, I feel silly saying that when we take a belief and tack on an ER and try to create a personal identity construct around that, that's another control mechanism that I encourage all of us to clue into and steer clear of. But okay, so that's another thing that we see in this. And notice Charles saying, yeah, I know some really intelligent people believing that, as though that's contradictory, right? Like the way he says it is like flat earth, like questioning the shape of our planet necessarily must equate to being stupid. So that was slipped in there as well. Another egregious association. Oh, if you question the shape of the earth, then you're not an intelligent person. Really, really subtly slipped in. Okay, so one of the other ones that we see is the crazy conspiracy theorist. So the crazy conspiracy theorist, also in your new favorite book, is anyone who questions the mainstream narratives and lends any consideration to narratives that the mainstream has deemed conspiracies must be crazy, right? And you'll see this with like the tinfoil hats, or even the suggestion that they're not smart, right? Like there's just this kind of automatic assumption that people who are questioning our reality must be crazy. That's another propaganda technique. The last one that we see in this short clip, I mean, look how much propaganda they shove into, well, let's see how long this clip is, just so I can be accurate. This is a 21-second clip. In a 21-second clip, we have 5 propaganda techniques front-loaded. So the last one, super simple, is repetition, right? And repetition is probably the number one tool of the propagandists, because the way that our brains are programmed through language and repetition, you hear it over and over and over and over again. So we hear this in terms of how often flat earthers are marginalized around the conspiracy conversation. Repetition, right? So in this one we have glably, 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 right? So just think of things that are just shoved, into our ear holes over and over and over and over again. That's yet another tool of the propagandists and the social engineers. Now, again, I am not accusing Charles Eisenstein or Aubrey Marcus of being propagandists or social engineers. The jury's still out. I'm just observing what I'm just sharing with you my analysis of the propaganda that I see coming through their conversation, whether it's deliberate, whether it's accidental, who knows? The key is for you and me and all of us to clue into these propaganda techniques, because once we see them, they lose their power, they lose their hold. Now they don't work on us. Now we're not under mind control. Now we still have access to our critical thinking capabilities, and we can discern for ourselves what is true, what is resonant, what isn't. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for remembering that every word matters. Thank you for picking up copies of Pop Propaganda, an illustrated guide for you and everyone you know and love in your life. I am going to be teaching my very last live Pop Propaganda course for teens in the next few months. So stay tuned. If you want more information on that, sign up for my newsletter at dannycatz.com, and I'll see you soon.
It's above righteousness and justice. And it involves the principle that human nature is a fundamentally good arrangement.